Alright, so this is how this thing goes. We're going to give it a shot, and doing this presentation offline will give you a chance to do a lot of different things that you don't necessarily have a chance to do in class. For one, it gives you a chance to stop, pause, rewind, go back and listen to something that I said in case you missed it, or if you're just tired of hearing me, pause or mute me, which you don't really have an opportunity to do too often. So that's what we're going to be doing here. You guys will have a worksheet like this. If you don't already have one, you'll have to get one from Edmodo, download it, or come talk to me and we'll get you all set up with that. But ignore the creepy little big-headed people and let's get going on this. Alright, a citizen is which one of these things? We're going to move through this kind of quickly, but at this time you should be able to pause it, take a look, maybe guess and see what you think it is. But if you didn't know, it is a member of a community with rights and responsibilities. So that's something that's important that you guys are going to need to know for our test and for this unit before we're finished. Alright, so what that means, since you're a part of a certain community, is you are a citizen of a city, a state, a school, or even your home. All of those places are communities that you are a citizen in. Community is a group of people that share an environment. Every day you are part of several different layers of a community. That means you have many different levels of citizenship no matter where you are. Now I want you to take this pyramid, find the one that says side 1 levels of citizenship. So we're going to look at the one that says citizenship right here, and you're going to fill it out as we go. For that bottom part, the little triangle that says home, the people we live with make up the small community that we belong to. What you need to do is write people I live with here. Our school or workplace is a community as well. They're people that you interact with every single day when you leave home and you come here, whether it's for after school activities or for class. What you're going to write there is the name of your school, which if you don't know by now, well, you're probably going to have a hard time in this class, but it's Freedom Middle School. Right here you're going to write the name of the city you live in, which is Orlando. The state you live in, which is Florida, and the nation that you live in, which is the United States. Got how this is going to work? Shouldn't be too tough. This is what it all should look like when you're done. And then we'll move on. Alright, now we talked about the fact that you have different rights and responsibilities as a citizen, but where do they come from? Who gives them to you? Where can you find them? That kind of stuff is really important. So what I need you to do is find side 2 of your citizenship pyramid. It should say origins at the top. And this is where you're going to write down the origins of the rights and responsibilities you have as a citizen. Being a citizen means having rights and responsibilities. Where do they come from? How do you get them? Do they just appear out of thin air? How do you assume or know what rights you have? Alright, this is another one of those little guessing ones. We get our rights and responsibilities as citizens from which one of these places? Well, that's really going to depend on the level of citizenship. And as you guys already know, you're a citizen of a bunch of different places. For nation, your rights and responsibilities come from the United States Constitution. The United States Constitution talks about all the things that you can and cannot do, and more importantly, it talks about all the things that you have the ability and the right to do. Your rights are listed in the Constitution under the Bill of Rights. So up here, you're going to write U.S. Constitution. The reason you're writing it there, again to explain, is under this triangle, this is where you get your rights and responsibilities. This is where you can find it. If you're confused and you don't know what you're allowed to do, you can always look to the U.S. Constitution and find out what you're allowed to do as a U.S. citizen. Alright, now state. You're going to look under that little state part right here. And each state has its own constitution as well. A constitution is just a basic setup that explains what you're allowed to do and explains how your government's going to be set up and give citizens power. So under state, you're going to write state constitution. Under the city tab, you're going to write city charter. The city charter is a document that tells you how a city will run. It's kind of like a constitution for a city, but it's called something different. So under that part, you're going to write city charter. School. Now you guys should already know this by now, but most schools have a school handbook, or in your case a student planner that has the code of conduct that you can find. So right here, you're going to write school handbook or code of conduct. At home, the adults in charge decide what your rights and responsibilities are. They're the ones who decide what chores you have, who's got to take out the trash, who's got to take care of the dog, that kind of thing. So down here, you're going to write adults in charge. Now, if I'm moving too quick, I want to remind you that you guys have an opportunity to pause, stop me, or rewind. That way you can pick up all the information. When you're done with side 2, it should look exactly like this, and ignore the very creepy, strange little character in there. Alright, now I want you to find the part of this pyramid that has a little triangle that says rights. This is going to talk about the different types of rights that citizens have in each layer of citizenship. For side 3, you're going to find rights if you've not already done so. And according to this little crazy guy, now that I know where rights and responsibilities come from, I need to know what my rights are. Rights as a whole are which one of these things? D. Rights are a privilege or a claim to something. So what kind of rights do citizens have at each level? We already discussed how citizens can be a citizen of different areas and different levels, but what kind of rights do you have at each level? Well, if you look at the nation, which is our whole country, you can see that our rights are guaranteed. Certain big rights like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to assemble in groups, and freedom to vote. Those are all things that can be found in the U.S. Constitution. So up here, you should write some examples of that. You don't have to write them all, but write some examples of the rights that you have in the U.S. Constitution. State Constitution. There are a lot of different things you can do on the state level as well. State constitutions usually repeat a lot of the same rights listed in the U.S. Constitution, but they add more. Usually it's going to be something more specific and smaller that applies only to the state. For example, your state constitution might guarantee the right to a free education or the right for kids under 14 not to work. I know a lot of you guys wish you could work, get a job, have to get all this money and buy Xbox games and all that stuff, but it is a freedom not to have to work. In a lot of places in our world, you have to work no matter what as soon as you're a small child, and that really causes quite a few problems. So right here, you need to write some of the rights that you have on a state level, like the right to free education and the right for children not to work. Now, why do you think the U.S. Constitution gives rights for education? Should it? Should states be in charge of education, or should the nation, should a country be in charge of how your education runs, or the whole country? We can discuss this in class. Now, your city charter gives you the right to specific services that your city provides, like sidewalks or parks. So here you can write right to use sidewalks and parks, different things that only your city does. Now your school. I know a lot of you guys feel like you don't have any rights in school. I just want to have gum. I just want to play with my phone. Yeah, all you see are the rules, but that does not necessarily mean that you don't have rights. You do have the right to do things like attend sports, eat in the lunchroom, attend class, get a good education, learn, talk to your friends. There are some things that you guys have that are rights, and just because they're not listed does not mean that you don't have them. When you're at home, the adults in charge are going to be the ones who give you rights that only apply to home. Some examples, you probably have the right to eat food, you probably have the right to watch TV and play video games, but those are again determined by the person in charge, as all these other rights are. So make sure that your side looks just like this, and remember that these are not the only rights that you have at each of these places, but they are some examples. Now we're going to go to responsibilities. We talked about how you're a citizen. We talked about what level of a citizen you can be. We talked about where you get your power and rights as a citizen, and we talked about what rights you have. For this one, we're going to talk about the things that you should be doing. Responsibilities. Responsibilities are duties that we have to other people, to the government, or to the law. And that guy thinks it's cool. When you're at home, the adults in charge give you duties that you are responsible for only while you're home. No one's going to ask you to make a bed while you're at school or anything like that. But these are responsibilities you have while you're home. So down here, you should write some of the responsibilities that you have, whatever your personal responsibilities are. Whether it's to make the bed, walk the dog, wash dishes, maybe watch your little brother or sister. Whatever you have as a responsibility at home, you should write down here. Now at school, you guys have a lot of responsibilities. You're actually fulfilling one of them right now. School, you're responsible to follow the rules. Oh, you're responsible to not chew gum like that person over there. You're responsible to do your homework. You're responsible to log on to Edmodo and watch this video. Yeah, you definitely don't want to do this last one. Alright, so right here, you're going to write behave in class, no gum, hats, weapons, or any other things that you have that are responsibilities for school. You could write do your homework, you could write study for tests, because those are all things that you have. On a city level, you've got a lot of things that you have to take care of as well. Now, on a city level, you have to apply things that you have to follow are laws that you're going to need to only have worrying about while you're in a city. That came out wrong, but you get the idea. A law that applies only within a city is called an ordinance. Make sure you know that. That will be on a test. So here, no barking, no dogs, this kind of thing. Your responsibility is to follow an ordinance. So you could write an example like you see right here, or you could write follow an ordinance. Your state constitution, we already talked about how that gives you certain rights, but it also lists certain laws. Paying taxes is one of the biggest responsibilities that you'll find in a state constitution. That goes to things like helping your school and your roads. For example, your state might have taxes on property you own, income you earn, and stuff that you buy. So right here you can write property tax, income tax, sales tax, or you could write follow state laws, which another thing you'll need to know, a state law that only applies in a state is called a statute. Statute is S-T-A-T-U-T-E. On the national level, the Constitution does not have a list of responsibilities, but that doesn't necessarily mean there aren't any. There are a lot of things that you have to do on the national level, which include voting and don't commit treason, which is basically becoming a secret enemy of your country, going against your country. So as a whole, your responsibility side should look like this. If it doesn't, pause this video here, and then make sure you write all that stuff. That's it. We're all done. Make sure you bring your completed pyramid to class tomorrow, and then if you have completed it, I may or may not let you use it on the test. But this is going to be one of the important things that you study. Make sure you also write down the definition of ordinance, which is a citywide law, statute, which is a statewide law, as well as knowing the things like what a city charter is and a state constitution. This is pretty easy. If you need to go back and play it again, feel free to do that. If you have any questions, send me an email.